Hello, my name is Beverley Ward, and I'd like to tell you the story of my bears. Let me just share my screen with you, and then you can see what it's all about. Right, the story of my bears. The story started with this very old bear of mine, which I had from a very young age. And I remember him sitting in the bottom of my wardrobe in my bedroom, and I thought he was so big that I couldn't play with him. I had a much smaller bear that I used to play with in those days. Well, actually, he was only 9 inches tall, and once I was old enough to play with him, he became my best friend. He came out of the bottom of the wardrobe and went to bed with me every day from then onwards until, obviously, I was an adult. He's not worth very much, unfortunately. I got him valued, and he's a Chiltern bear, and he's not worth very much. But you can see this picture on the right here of me when I was quite young, and he was with me in one of those photo booths. So he went everywhere with me. I also love the Teddy Bears Picnic song. You can see here I have a childhood memories CD with the sound on. If this had been a PowerPoint presentation, I would have been able to have played you that, but unfortunately I can't do it on the system that I'm using. But on the left you can see all the words to the Teddy Bears Picnic. Also, from my childhood, I managed to save this sooty egg cup here and this sooty annual. And my son was working for ITV, and he took this picture, and it was Sooty, Sweep and Sue on the Good Morning couch. And he sent me a copy of it because he knows how much I love my bears. You can buy bears. There's a couple of shops local to where I live in Old Windsor. One's in Henley, and there used to be one in Eton as well, which was the same shop. It was at Asquith. Unfortunately, the Eton one has shut. And a friend of mine gave me this little Henley bear here. He's only about 6 inches tall. And you can see what a collector I am, because I even collected the wrappings that they were in, the little their paper bags that they were in. When you make a bear, you have to choose the mohair that you want. I have a preference actually for more short hair or for hair. This is a very velvety looking one here. This is a sparse one. Here's another sparse one here. I quite like the sparse look because I like the old-fashioned looking bears. You can see these furs here, or these mohairs here are much more fluffy and long, and you'll see some samples that I've made with them later on. For the paw pads, we use something which is called ultra suede, which you can see here, and you match the ultra suede to the colour of your bear mohair. This is a typical layout for a pattern. It's just like when you do dressmaking, you have to consider the grain of your fur. So you smooth it down and see which way you think that the fur is running, and cut your pieces out accordingly. Lots of my patterns came from books. You can see that my collection of books there, and I've also bought patterns where you get all the mohair and everything you need, the eyes, everything, and the pattern all in a kit together, and you'll see some of those later on. This is some of the equipment that you might find useful. You have very long needles here called doll needles. They're very good for getting right through to the other side of the bear's head. You can see a brush here for brushing up the coat afterwards. We also use this very strong thread. This is a very very thick, strong thread that won't break for putting in the eyes. There's some thread here that I would use to embroider the nose, cotton perle it's called. To joint the bears, you use what's called a cotter pin and a disc. You can see here's the disc, and here you can see here the cotter pin. And depending on the size of the bear, obviously the size of the disc changes. And you have special pliers that you fold over the cotter pins inside before you stuff the bear. And you can see here, there's some trial eyes. These are eyes that are on pins that you can just put into your bear's face or into the head, so you can see what size eyes and what position you want them to be in. Also, the bears can be weighted, and this is some of the weights that you can use. Some shot here, and these are plastic pellets. And the old-fashioned way they used to do it, they used to stuff the noses with this wood shaving here. This is my collection of Steiff bears. Well, I say collection, I've only got one or two. This always reminded me of my son's childhood bear, and his head rotates round, and he's 12 inches, and that's why I had to have him, because he had such a cute face. This one on the left is the first Steiff bear that I ever bought, and I think he came from the shop in Eton High Street. And this little bear here, I had to buy him because his name was Charlie, and my first grandson's name was Charlie, so I had to buy him. He's only a little 6-inch plush children's toy. Also in my collection, I have these dolls. The one on the left I made when I was very young, from a pattern, a printed pattern. I think it was in a magazine, and you sent for the panel, cut it all out. And the one on the right came from the teddy bear shop. He's a limited edition piece. He's only 7 inches, and his hair is just amazing. It feels really soft and beautiful. I love these two little ones as well. They live with my bears. Now these are the 3 bears that my children have. This one on the left belongs to my eldest son. And this one in the middle sadly got lost. We were clearing out, and unfortunately my husband accidentally took him to the skip, so we lost him. And this is my youngest son's bear, and he still has his bear as well. This was one of the Mapleton Road bears that I bought. You quite often like a designer, you have a favourite designer, and I think that this lady is my favourite designer, because I bought bears on different occasions and they have both been from her. Again, I've kept the little bag that she came in with the Mapleton Road logo on it. Again, he's a limited edition bear, 1 of 1. This is another Mapleton Road bear. His name's Douglas. A slightly bigger bear, this one, but I just like the look of them. You tend to fall in love with a bear, and you think you just got to take him home with you, and I think that's what I did with these couple of bears. This was another bear that we bought. We were on a day outing, my husband and I. We went down to Swanage, and we walked up the high street, and I went, oh my goodness, there's a bear shop. So we went into the shop, and as you can see, I came out with one. I mean, how could you leave a bear shop without buying a bear? So this is a bear by Charlie Bears, and he has very loose joints. His head moves and wobbles, and I think he's got such a lovely face. This bear was inspired by a holiday that I went to in Scotland. We were staying in a bed and breakfast in Scotland, and everything in the room was made of this type of fabric. And I went home and I said, I've got to have some of that fabric, because I just love it. And when we were walking around the shops, we saw some bears made up, and I said, oh, if I could go home, I could make a bear. If I could get the fabric, I could make a bear to out of this fabric. So that's what I did, and that's the result. This is Snowy. He has a growler inside him, so when you turn him over, he growls. He was one of the first bears that I made. This was another bear that was bought as a kit. He's much bigger, he's 18 inches tall, and obviously I decided that I didn't like his red bow because now he has this gold bow, so I must have changed his bow at some time. This is made from the same pattern, a different mohair, and a totally different look to the bear. And this one has a growler inside him. It's the same pattern again, but different mohair. So that's 3 different looks to one pattern. My grandchildren love this one because of the growler inside, of course. When you tip him over, he makes a noise, and they love him. This was a bear that I made because I liked the shape of his legs. He has sort of bent legs, and he could lie down as well. And when I showed him to my friends, they all said, "Oh, Beverley, can't you do a workshop with us?" So I said, okay. So I sent for all the mohair to Oakley Fabrics, and we all sat down and made them. And this is Marjorie's one here. This is another bear made from the same pattern, but of course a totally different look because the mohair is different. This is dyed mohair, but you know, totally different look. This is my own design bear, this pink one here. I called her Lucy, and I've done her in various different sizes. This is made from the Lucy bear pattern. It's made from calico, and when my son and his wife got married, everybody at the wedding signed on the calico, so it was a keepsake for them. This was a bear that I made to raise money for charity at our local club, and he was he was sort of auctioned. Everybody paid £1 towards it, put their name against a number, and then the number was drawn out at the end, and whoever's name was on that won him, and he was won by a friend of mine called Moira. I just hope she still looks after him. But he's got a dyed tipped mohair on him. And here he is again with one of his friends. These are my Millennium Bears. I was going to enter a teddy bear scene competition, and it was to make a bear out of different fabrics, and then you submitted them, and they were going to choose the best one to, you know, the most original one. The one on the right I made from chamois leather. This one here is all made from chamois leather, and this one on the left was made from an old pair of curtains of mine. Unfortunately, I didn't enter the competition because I was unwell at the time, but that was a shame. But I still have the bears, and you can see I managed to get a Millennium ribbon that I've tied around on this one. This is one of my most recent bears. I bought a book recently by Sue Quinn, and this was the bear that was in her book. You see how I favour this sort of shaggy, short mohair. I think he's really lovely. This was another one by the same designer, using longer mohair. This is Alfie. I'm not sure I like clothes on bears, but the pattern for him had clothes on, so he had a pair of trousers on. It's Bart and some of his friends. This is a loosely jointed teddy bear. Inside here you have different cotter pins that have like a hole at the end that you clip into one another so that they wobble more. He's got sparsely dyed mohair, and he's about 9 inches tall. And this is the same pattern, but the 2 different looks. You can see that this is the sparse mohair and this is the long mohair. So one by Jennifer Lang. Another one that's, I wasn't sure, I liked him in his trousers, so I took them off. But you can see on here, he has a very rounded tummy, and in actual fact, he's got a hump on his back and very long arms and very long legs. All the bears are different. Every year or they all change all the time. During the war, I think the bears had much shorter arms and legs because they didn't have the fabric to spare, so they shortened them. This is another Lucy bear, an 8-inch one this time from my own pattern. And there he is with there she is rather with his friend. Quite often when I used to go on holiday, I used to take them with me and hand sew them. You can see the nice roundedness of his tummy here. This is Ross by Mapleton Road Bears. Do you remember I said right at the beginning how I do favour a designer? Well, this was a bear designed by her, and it came in a kit, and this was the old bear here, you know, the sparse mohair, and you know the implication that he's got holes in him and he's been stitched up. And these are some of the others that I made from the same pattern, giving all the different looks, you know, with the different mohairs. And you can see quite well on this one where I've shaved him around his muzzle here. And then I was trying to think of innovative ways of displaying my bears. So I put them in a basket. Or sometimes I put them by, you know, clocks or that sort of thing. This is one that I made from the Ross pattern, but I made it smaller on the computer, and so he's only 6 inches. Tibby, I'm not sure about Tibby. He's got very long arms, as you can see. This was a workshop that I did with a friend of mine called Karen Ayres, and she designed both these bears. They're only little small bears, but very different look. The one on the right was my first girl bear. It's very hard to get their features to look like, all mine seem to look like male bears. This one on the right here has quite a nice face, doesn't he? And he's got very long red hair. Quite small bears. This was a kit by Admiral Bears. Didn't look like anything like the picture on the pattern when it was made. And the one on the right here is another kit from Bear Basics. His name's Wilf, 5.5-inch bear. This is Tyler, again with a wobbly head here, and here he is made again in a different mohair. He looks quite gruff, doesn't he? Quite a different bear, that one, 6 inches tall. These are the sleeping bears. This was inspired by a friend of mine who gave me this one. And I said, oh, I love that little bear. He's so beautiful. And she gave him to me. And I said, well, I'd love to make some more. Could you lend me the pattern? So she lent me the pattern. And I fell in love. Look here with his little paws. I thought they were so sweet, sticking up on the back of his legs because he was lying flat. This one I made as a present for a friend of mine who lives in Spain. And here's some of the others using the different mohair. I like him because, again, I like the sparse mohair. His name's Sherry, Sweet Sherry. I suppose it's a she, is it? I don't know. This was Royden, a 5.5-inch bear. I made him in lots of different mohairs, as you can see here. And this is all of them together, and the look of all the different mohairs that you can use and what different effects you can have. Actually, I quite like this one. This one looks like a little girl as well, I think. But it's very hard to make them look like girls or boys. Now, Big Buddy, he was from Lyrical Bears. Unfortunately, she doesn't trade anymore. But you can see here's the pound coin. You can see he's quite small at 5 3/4 inches. And these, Toffee and Butterscotch, are much smaller. They're only 4 inches. And there's a story to tell about Toffee here. Well, I called him Jesus because I made him in Spain. But unfortunately, I lost him at the airport. We were coming back and I'd put him in my handbag so that I could show my neighbour before I left. So I showed my neighbour the bear and I put him in my handbag. And then by the time I got to the airport and got through check-in, I'd lost him. So some lucky person in Spain has Jesus. And when I got home, I made Toffee to go with butterscotch here. These are some other very small bears. You can see this one is only about 1.5 inches. And these were some beaded bears that I made. The grandchildren loved playing with these tiny little bears. And this is a very small bear as well. I think this is about one of the smallest ones I've ever made at 3.5 inches. He's very tiny. And the smaller they are, the more difficult they are to make, of course. So this one might be this is a very small one as well. He has very short mohair because it's easier to work with. This one lives with my friend Marjorie, who made the bear in the workshop with me. She couldn't resist him, so I said, oh, okay, you can take him home. And I have this one in my collection. Again, 3 of them together. This one on the right was a kit from Admiral Bear's 4-inch bear. These are bears that I made from recycled vintage fur. My mother owns some fur coats, mush wash fur coats, and when she died, of course, I didn't know what to do with these coats because you can't wear them anymore. So I made them into bears. The first one I made was this one, which was a 12.5-inch bear from a Bumpkins bear kit. Sorry, a pattern, not a kit. And then I made this 18-inch classic from the coat as well. And then you can see here in the making, this is the head. I tend to sort of, you must think I'm crazy, but I talk to the heads and I look at them and I say, you know, are you a girl or are you a boy? Everybody thinks I'm mad. And these are 2 other ones that I made from another coat, another must-wash coat that my mother had 2 or 3 of these coats. On the left, you can see my first effort of doing it. And his looks very gruff. I mean, I'd put this pink ultra suede for the paws because it was the best match I had with the colour of the actual fur. And this fur was much longer, so it was much more difficult to work with. I did shave him quite a bit around the muzzle, but of course, once cut off, that's it. So it was a bit dubious to cut the fur off. And then I thought, well, I'm not really sure that I do like him. So I had another go at his face, and you can see the one on the right. I re-stitched the nose in black here, and I cut a lot more from his muzzle. So that's what he looks like now. And here's me holding them. I'm always photographing them in odd places. This was from our villa in Spain. They were all having fun, playing golf and swimming. And here they are at home. And some other displays I've had with them. This is an old-fashioned chair that belonged to my grandparents. And on the chaise in the hall. And this was a teddy bear's picnic that I did for a friend of mine. She brought her children round and I put all the bears in the summer house and they went in there and played with them. 2 little girls. They had a great time. Bunty was made by Eileen, a friend of my mum's, and gave it to my mum and dad on their 50th wedding anniversary. And she was the lady really that started me into the bear making because she said, you must make these bears. She'd been on a course She lived in Gravesend. She went on a course and made this bear. And when we were in Spain and we were on holiday and she showed me it, I said, oh, and from that moment onwards, I was making bears. These are some bears that a friend of mine made. This is Buggle. He belongs to our daughter-in-law, Nikki. She was too old to have a bear. Her husband said, you've got to get rid of that bear. So he came to live with us. These are some bought bears again. This bear, as you can see, is about 2 inches in height. And they come with it in a little box and all their arms and legs move. This is a bear that I bought again on a holiday. We went to Wookey Hole and they had a shop next door where had all these bears in. So Wookey, that's how Wookey got his name. He's a 13-inch plush bear. So he had to come home with us. This is a strange bear, this one, because I've been in hospital a few times and bears give me such comfort. And I said, bring me my bear, my big bear, and I can cuddle him when I'm feeling miserable in hospital. So that's the story behind this one. This one was crocheted by a friend of mine. He sits on the desk when I'm working. This was a purchased bear, charity bear, that someone had made and embroidered all over. Of course, I've got jigsaw puzzles with bears on. I actually have done this 1,000 piece puzzle. I've also got an embroidery machine, and you can see here I've embroidered a window hanging here, and these are pieces that you can put onto your Christmas tree. Wrapping paper, of course, with bears on, and these are molds that I had, and I filled them with clay, I suppose, and the plaster of Paris, I think it was, and wait for it to set, and then I painted their faces on there. I collect cards as well. These ones were done on the embroidery machine. These were made, this one and this one were made by friends of mine. This is a hottie bag that you can put into the microwave, given to me by a friend. And these are three very tiny little bears. This one was a brooch, a bought brooch, and a bought beaded bear. And this little bear was made from pipe cleaners that I made. And this was a beeswax candle. I've got a hot water bottle with a bear. And these are the Me to You bears that the children have bought me over the years. And people send me anniversary and birthday cards with bears on them. A friend bought this one back from her trip on the Orient Express. And another friend gave me this one, a Diamond Jubilee bear. I also collect Twos jewellery, you can see here. The silver Twos bears, and he's got some Swarovski crystal bears here. This little bear opens in the middle so you can put trinkets and things inside, and of course the Hummel figures with the bears. Cross stitch, that's another one of my hobbies. All the teddies on a washing line, and a teddy bear jumper. Knitted on my knitting machine many years ago. This is Holly and Berry. They're my Christmas bears. They were bought from the shop in Eton High Street. When we went to Berlin to the Christmas markets, I bought this bear from the Galleria. It was a big department store that was opposite where our hotel was. And their shop windows were absolutely amazing. This was the first shop window, and you can see here all the little bears going along here, as if they were being made, and they're coming off the conveyor belt the other end there with their hats on, and then coming down here again, they've got their hats on, and now they're in a box. Look down here, and each of these windows was a different scene with all the bears in. and you can see them in the box here. They're going back through the machine there, and here they're coming out with their Christmas wrapping and their bows on the top. In this window, I think these ones were they were on a sleigh here, and these ones had, I think, hearts on their chest. Anyway, I think that's, oh no, there's one more slide. I think this is the last slide. I don't know what they're quite doing in this one, but you can see my love of them. Well, that's the end of the story of my bears. Let me just shut this down. Well, thank you for listening to the story of my bears. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to see you at one of my other recordings. Bye for now.